Andre, from joining us from Australia, Sydney or Melbourne,
Sydney,
Sydney,
Sydney.
right?
Yeah.
Up
And
and
if just let you know,
yeah,
I'm in the middle of a flight path, Aubrey. So if you hear a jet going over, they're literally 750 feet above our house. So
oh,
the big A380s come very, very close and they're very, very noisy. So just want to let you know, if you hear a jet going past, um, that's kind of it.
thanks, Andre. So just let's begin. Andre,
Okay.
please take it away. Please give everybody an introduction and what do you do and stuff.
Okay, so my name is Andre Alphonso, born in Calcutta, um, and ended up going to boarding school in Goethals, which is up in Kurseong way, up in the hills. My parents immigrated to Australia when I was 12 years old with my other brother, and I have another brother who went to Canada. So literally, we showed up in Australia, and I showed up here as a pretty innocent naive 12-year-old Indian boy in a very white Anglo-Saxon school. So you can imagine how much fun that was back in 1970, right? So that was in the 70s. So things like the White Australia policy, which you may or may not have heard of, was a thing. You know, Australia had a policy for whites only up until the mid 60s. So when we arrived, it was still fresh in the minds of many people. So it was an interesting time coming here. So I went to school, high school over here, and I think it was an interesting time for me, Aubrey, in terms of identity. And I think it kind of makes sense with what we're talking about around Anglo-Indians, because I found myself, people over here didn't know what Anglo-Indian meant. You know, nobody would have a clue even though I went to great lengths to kind of explain what an Anglo-Indian was. And what I found myself doing as I went through my life was I was actually trying to distance myself from my Indianness. See, I'm a pretty brown guy here, and you sort of stand out in the crowd a little bit. But as a young kid, you don't want to stand out. You want to belong. You want to be part of the fabric. You want to be with the girls. You want to be with the jocks. You want to hang out. But if people see you as being different, they put you aside, and you always feel like you're fitting in. So I had to drop the Indianness in me. So my accent is, as you can tell, very Australian, and I find it very difficult to change from that. The sports I took on was not cricket or soccer, it was rugby and the very kind of Australian sports that we do. So it was an interesting time around identity because to fit in to a white Australia kind of meant distancing myself from the Indian. Much later in life, I came back to India to set up a business when I was 50 years old, right? So I'd been away from India for 38 years. And I came back and I rediscovered the beauty of India. And I rediscovered why I felt so at home in that country. I rediscovered that my identity as Andre Alfonso was to honor the Indian in me because rather than trying to dismiss it or distance myself from it, I embraced it. I embraced it, and I think that's why I'm here with you talking about the Global Anglo-Indian Network, seeing what I can do to contribute. Um, those sorts of things. So that's my story. So the businesses I have been involved in and I run. I used to be a director of HR for a very large IT company for many years, and then I went from there and went into consulting after that. But my real expertise is on communication skills, leadership, sales, communication skills, and I teach people the skills of storytelling, of being able to express their ideas in a way that gets heard, finding their voice. So that's my passion, and that's kind of what I still do. I'm still working. I still love it. I could never ever think of retiring because I love what I do so much. So that's me, Aubrey.
Now, Andre, first of all, I love your leadership nuggets. I mean, it's with your friend. I mean, he from
Yes,
Canada, right?
Darren. Yep.
So
He's
I love that.
Canadian.
Canadian,
Yep.
yeah. Now, coming back to the community, what has been your experience, your view of it? What have you seen and what you have you experienced?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's quite sad actually from my perspective because I'm in that mid generation of people that, when I left to come over here, I didn't have enough of the Anglo in me. It's kind of programmed in at the time. I still had some, but not enough. I still don't know how to jive, for example. I never learned. I was 12, right? But everybody else I know does. So I kind of feel a bit of a fraud there. Well, what I saw, that's a great question. What I saw, and as I still see to this day, is people holding on to the past, right? There is this real living in the past that I notice, and people share a lot of their experiences of what happened. And I see a distancing between the older Anglo-Indians within here in Australia, and the sort of kids and the children that they've brought up who are born here in Australia to Anglo-Indian parents. A lot of the kids today, the 20, the teenagers, the 20 somethings, even the 30 somethings, aren't that interested in, uh, the sorts of experiences we had and the foods we ate and, the movies we saw and the dances we went to, and the parties we had. They're not that interested. They're looking for something that's relevant to them. And I think there's the gap that needs to be a bridge needs to be built to allow the generational divide to kind of come together a little bit more because I think there's such an important story to be told from an identity point of view for the younger Anglo-Indians or the mixed race people who've intermarried to hang on to something which is really important and all of the great cultural aspects that come with being Anglo-Indian. Uh, that I think is something that is worthy of investing some time in crossing that generational gap. So as I look at it and I hear a lot of Anglo-Indians say, within a few decades there won't be any Anglo-Indians, and that just makes me really sad. It kind of makes me really sad because I think we've kind of not maybe had the I could get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it. I don't think the community has had a leader for a while that's kind of been seen as a leader in the community, that's talked about it, that is a bit more inspirational, not just about, I think a lot of it is left to the women and the mothers to pass that down to their daughters. Hmm.
Now, the
But not so
idea
much
is
for men.
now the question would be is people in Australia, right? How do they see the community? The kids abroad see the community. I understand they're saying many do not even know about their roots. Like, do people talk about it? Are there any murmurs?
I think people talk about it. I think their parents talk about it. The parents talk about the good old days and the times they had and the ayahs that we used to have and how things were cooked and cleaned and all those sorts of things, which is a little bit for people who are born in this country, it's a little bit, oh, that's interesting. It's very colonial in many respects, but they don't see it as relevant. The relevance to them is, and I think for us as the older generation, and certainly it's what I try and do, is to be a lot more curious and of their lives, draw them in, not tell them. There's nothing worse than an old person telling stories or telling them what they should be doing. And that's not just Anglo-Indians, it's all generational, right? It's parents and grandparents telling kids you should do it this way, and this is what you should be doing. I think that is the biggest turn off and switch off ever for the younger generation. You ain't gonna make any friends doing that. You're not gonna build any bridges. You're gonna isolate them. I think there's a different way, and I think it starts with being curious and entering their world and finding out what their challenges are, right? They've got a lot of challenges, if you think about it, that they're facing as they kind of get into their world. They have issues of identity. They have issues of resilience and belonging and who do they belong to. And they want to tell their story in the way that matters to them, not just, you know, um, and I think that's where the generations can make a difference. I really do. I really think there's a role for parents and grandparents, Anglo-Indian grandparents, to play in not being the know-it-all, but being the curious, the inquirer, the person who's genuinely curious about their kids and the challenges they face, not just at a different level, but just someone who can they can speak to and be a mentor for. I really think there is a role for mentoring of the younger generations that need to happen. And it's not about, again, telling people what they should be doing. It's actually connecting with them. So, it's interesting. I'm a mentor for school kids here in Australia. I've just signed up for uh, high school children between the ages of 12 and 15. And the first thing I learned about being a mentor is we listen, never give advice. We never give advice. We're not there to fix anything. And I know it's really hard for a parent to say that about their kids. But if you start by just listening, you build amazing bridges. And it's listening with curiosity, not listening with judgment. And I think it's a very different mindset that if we can adopt as parents and grandparents, we're going to go a long way to building these amazing relationships, which I think the potential is huge.
Now I have a case study for you, right?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm giving you a little bit work right now, but here it goes. The next Anglo-Indian reunion is in Melbourne in 2029,
Yeah.
right? Now, this is the feedback and seeing it with my own eyes from what I learned from Kochi, there was hardly anybody. In fact, when we had the roundtable conference there, can you guess how many people below the age of 40 were there at the roundtable conference?
I'd guess zero.
Absolutely zero. Now, the question for you is this, and the study is this. What do we do to get the youth involved for 2029? How do we push it from game? And how do we create this environment where people are asking, what do I do? What do I bring? How should I kind of get excited for it?
I think we run workshops for kids and young kids on resilience. We run workshops on identity. We run workshops on being able to navigate some of the complexities of life. These are the things, is regardless of whether we're Anglo-Indian or not, but if it's run by Anglo-Indians for Anglo-Indians, that's kind of the link. I think if they see that, there's got to be some music that's got to be associated with it, not Elvis, please. It's got to be some young band that may have an Anglo-Indian component, but it's actually they actually see it over here as being something a little bit funkier than old guys getting up and playing instruments. And I think we could do that. So I think if we actually had a day or a couple of days dedicated to the youth, the Anglo-Indian youth, dedicated not just as an afterthought, but dedicated to that generational thing. Then I think we'd be making a statement that they may open their eyes to and say, okay, the second thing I would say is get a bunch of Anglo-Indians, kids, 20 somethings, 30 somethings, get them to be on the committee to arrange that session. The best way to get them interested is get them to create it for themselves. Not us, old farts, around there telling them what they should be doing. Let them create it. Let's get brave with this. Let's give them some agency, right? Let's give them some agency to go and do it, not control or manage them, because that's not going to work. They're bright, brilliant, intelligent people. They're the ones that are going to pick up, if anything, the Anglo-Indian flag if they choose. Right now, no one's interested. No one's interested. It's like, right? But how do we make them interested? We get them interested by being involved, right?
Mm.
Maybe they need to be capturing the stories of their parents in a way which is really, really interesting. Not boring, and I think there's a lot that we can do around that so that they can pass it on to their children and grandchildren. The trials of people who live in India, the Anglo-Indians who live in India, and those that have had to immigrate out of India and a challenge. There's a thing that says choose your hard. It's hard staying in India as an Anglo-Indian. It's hard leaving India as an Anglo-Indian, right? It's hard both ways. Tell the damn stories because those are the things that are really going to click with people. But get them to tell the stories, not us. Get them to create like you, Aubrey. You are the prime example. The reason I'm so excited about being here today is you are a young man that has picked up the flag and you are a potential leader of this community. If you're not already, you are already a leader. You're not a potential, you are a leader of this community. But as we go forth, more Aubreys are needed. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the next Melbourne reunion? being organized by three Aubreys, or at least part of it by three Aubreys. What would you do? Would it be very different to what you saw?
Okay, so here goes, Audrey. We're gonna put tangible, what should I say, projects in mind. Number one, we're gonna look at every week. We're gonna have a workshop. It's gonna be through Zoom, and we're gonna work on having either on Friday or Saturday. We're gonna have a workshop done, right? So the first workshop is the week after next, right? Next week is I'm a little busy setting up things there. We're growing our team as well. So Richard will be helping the next one. I hope you would be free for another workshop, right?
Sure.
Number two, this is where we need your help. We are going to have a roundtable with the youth. We have got a place, we've got everything set up. We're going to get them together. We're going to have a roundtable in India. We want a roundtable to be held at Australia, Canada, the UK, and then we're going to have an international roundtable with all of the youth together, right? As a start, I've given this for 3 months as the target. So that is what we're going to do. The 7 month goal is, and I know this is a little too much, I hope you do agree with me on this, is you do know that, look, we have a lot of people in film, a lot of people who are trying to do stuff there, is to have an international film meet, if possible, in Melbourne with Nigel, with Richard, with you, if anybody around there could help out there,
Hmm.
right? Because if you were in Cochin, there were young women, these young, amazing girls from the UK who were making a documentary on this. I met an actress then, and I had no idea. Yeah, Shelley King from and she gave me this whole rundown. So that's what we're going to do. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fantastic. I think that's, we've got to have some big, hairy, audacious goals, really. I don't know if there are any goals as such as opposed to arranging the next reunion. But I think the whole big, hairy, audacious goals are a bit of engaging the youth, about them arranging sessions, about them having some agency and some say in how this community gets together in Melbourne in 2029. I think these are tangible, very simple things that we can do to build on keeping the legacy of who we are and identity, uh, you know, alive.
No. Now I have another big question, right?
Yeah.
You said we are a very dynamic community. We have a lot of people who think there, right? You have said this, right? Now, here is what we are trying to look at is building an incubation center for businesses to start up. How do you think that's a good idea? How would we go ahead with this? How should we do it? Taking India, Australia, all the countries together? Because at the end of the day, it's when we've lost 296 seats, correct? And I firmly believe, I mean, 296, there are only 296 Anglo Indians according to the government. I apologize for that. And we've lost a two seats or whatever. And I firmly believe that to have that power, you have to have a little more financial kind of power to show that strength, right? Because nobody will accept you without that. So, do you think building an incubation center, working on, say, a technical kind of training center would be a kind of a good idea?
Look, I think it's a good idea. There's anything that is investing in the future is always a good idea. I think having the right people around it is incredibly important. So a good idea is a good idea, but it's the execution of that good idea where it actually works or where it doesn't work. The world is not short on good ideas. It's very short on execution of good ideas. So with the incubation center, it's a great idea. How do we make it happen? How do we get younger people involved? It's not just doing it for them. People don't like handouts. People don't, the people want some agency. They want some freaking say in how I want to live my life, not someone tell me and give me money to, not saying that's not important because we do need investment. For sure, we need investment to do the things we want to do, but also do it in a way which is clever and smart. I've run a business in India. I've worked in India, and I know the challenges of actually people paying bills and all of the other things that go with it of how everything is the whole nature of doing business in India is incredibly challenging. And I've kind of done it.
Let's
I learned it through through hard knocks. Um, and I think. It is challenging, but I think it can be done. And I think, I'm as a person who's a business person, happy to guide people along the way. Happy to do that. As I said, my skill is very much on storytelling and selling. If you want to pitch an idea, you should be talking to me. If you want to pitch an idea to some agency, you shouldn't do it without having a conversation with me, because I can tell you the importance of doing that pitch right is a one. It's a one shot. You got one shot at it, and if you lose it, you're gone. Now, we spend so much time, and from my experience in living in India and doing business over there, we spend so much time on the left side of our brain. And yes, there's lots of good stuff happening, but in terms of business and how we talk to people, it's all about the left side of the brain. It's all about logic. It's that we don't engage the emotions in a way which is really, really engaging. And I always said when I opened up my business in India, my big, hairy, audacious goal was to make Indian business people feel comfortable on a white man's stage, right? And I choose my words very carefully because there was, and it's less, much less now, much less than now when I first started. But giving them the confidence, the communication skills to get up when someone calls you out in a meeting or someone says something, how do you respond in a way which gives you that confidence, that gives you that grit, gives you that courage? And I found that was very much missing. A lot of people would go straight to the intellectual level. They would go into the things that kind of do it, but they're missing the interpersonal skills, if you like, that allowed them to actually get stuff done. So that's my area of expertise. If you're going to pitch anything to anyone, you should be talking to me.
Okay, now Andre, I'm going to give you again. I'm so sorry. I'm giving you a lot of homework here. I
Sure.
apologize because what's come is that I have for this meeting. You see, I have a very bad habit is I have to absolutely be prepared, and not only when I have talked with you, because I have to have real life examples. Being a social entrepreneur, working there, going through a lot of nonsense. When I meet a lot of people, let's put pen to paper. Let's put our mouth. Let's talk action. So the second conversation was with with Dexter Ross. Did you check that out?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. Now the reason I am taking his name is because he's an upcoming entrepreneur. He's trying to release his sources and stuff like that. Do check it out.
I
If you
will.
could, uh, I'll try to see if he would want to connect with you and how he's moving. We're also having a release of his products here, right? And his thing was I had no help in when I started something, my other company, nothing happened. It fell. I needed help. I needed mentoring. There was nobody, right? So now he's releasing a second one. When I needed help, there was nobody,
Yeah.
right? And I'm taking my example to make sure it doesn't happen again with anybody else. That
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
So would you take him as a start to see how it
Yeah.
goes? Let's.
Absolutely. I'm happy to support him in the best way I can in terms of giving him whatever experience I can draw on and any of the skills that I have to make him succeed. Uh, you
So
know, within my expertise.
now here's the next question. You have Shark Tank, you have Dragon's Den, you have this, right? From our network perspective, could we have something like this as a pitching thing with Anglo-Indian businessmen ideas?
Absolutely. I've done it. I've worked with uh, universities where they've brought people together to pitch their ideas. And it is like a Shark Tank. And it is a practice ground for when they do it so that when they go out there, they don't fall over. Now, a lot of the times, um, it takes some of that skill to pitch an idea. I think it's a much, much undervalued skill. And it's not about showing me the economics. It's about engaging my heart. If I don't trust you, if I see you talking to me and I don't believe you, it doesn't matter what numbers you put up there. My brain is saying, do not engage with this person, right? We've got to get past those defenses in a way which allows them to say, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more, right? And that is not about throwing up numbers and throwing up. The
Mm.
idea is important, but we have that in our back pocket. We've got to be able to pitch for their issues. What are they feeling but not saying is the question I would ask. Because really, That's the gold. And if you can figure out, and it's not hard to figure out, you just have to go into one of the AI platforms and say, I'm thinking about CFOs in small, manufacturing businesses. What are their biggest issues in terms of what are they feeling but not saying? That's where you start. And if you can start there, then the rest of
Right.
it, you earn the right to have the conversation, to pitch your idea. But if you don't get them, if they don't get you, if they feel, oh, this guy doesn't get me, doesn't get my business, doesn't get what's happening here, it's all moot.
Mm. So we're going to do whatever you said. We're going to put this in. We're going to put this in action. Two places. One is with Dexter Ross. I if
Connect
is it okay
me.
to put?
Connect me with Dexter.
Yes. And but before that, I request you do look at his conversation.
Sure.
The way I'm having these conversations are pretty strategic, so that when we're having these conversations, you already have a backdrop of what they have done, right? So that's how I'm planning it and spacing it out, right? For example, there's one you talked about rugby, right? You were in rugby. Tomorrow, I'm releasing this person's daughter, Chanel, who represents India in rugby, right?
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, and her daughter required an operation. There was nobody to help in for that operation, for funds, etc. You see, and she needed the network, and it was very difficult to get that network going and for the funds. So that's what we are trying to kind of work towards is never forget that there is a support mechanism, but getting it out there is going to be there. Number two, please look at Lauren Scanlon's in conversation, right? I'll send it to you, followed by Bridget White's conversation, which was much before, but setting up a kind of women led enterprise,
Hmm.
right? And they have a youth movement there. So so I see it as using examples that others can see, listen to, and then move forward with, right? And that's how I'm trying to strategically work with that. So would that be okay putting them if you would like to talk to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk to them.
So once we set this up, it kind of gives the domain that this is working.
Yeah.
Now, now is the next question. I'm so sorry, Andrea. I hope I'm not taking time
No, it's fine. Go for it.
because now comes to our subscription model. Do you think that that's workable? What we are doing with $10 and 250 rupees per month?
Yeah. I think it depends. I love the idea of a subscription model because it shows some skin in the game. It doesn't matter if it's 10 or 5,000 or 20,000 rupees because it says there's a commitment. The whole idea of a subscription model, it's a built-in commitment by the person subscribing. And once you subscribe, you feel obliged to use it and be part of it. So I think it's a great idea. However, people have got to see real value in the subscription. If I'm going to subscribe, what's the value I'm going to get? What am I going to get out of this? And I think that's important.
So if I were to ask you, what would be your pitch
What would be my pitch for what?
for the subscription? Why should people subscribe to gain?
I can't pitch on why you should subscribe. I can pitch on gain. Right? I can pitch on gain, but not on the subscription is really just a means to an end. A subscription is basically just saying, here's the money. But before you do the money, it's got to be something that is talking about the value that gain creates. So if I think about gain, I think it's a future, it's the thing that appeals to me. And if I was, and I'm not doing this as a pitch, mate, because I probably would need to prepare for it. First rule of pitching is don't go in unprepared, right? But there will be some pillars that I would be pulling on. And I think the first one is it's got to be something which is forward looking, not necessarily looking back, as we tend to do very much in gain. Remembering that this is a community where people can build relationships, mentor younger generations, contribute to modern conversations. That's what Gain should be doing because the subscriptions you want is really from the younger Anglo-Indians, to be honest. I mean, the older people absolutely as well, but it's really there. We want to be able to talk about their world, right? So whatever we do in Gain, and some of the things that you're talking about, Aubrey, are spot on. It's got to be their world about identity, about careers, about belonging. It's got to be about their voice and giving them a voice about what they're feeling challenged about, not just their parents and grandparents, right? It's their voice. Giving them a platform to speak. I think part of that is then offering them mentoring, offering them the sorts of things that a lot of us, as you were saying, like Bridget and Lauren, have those skills. Giving that as as something that would be an offering to them. And I think it's got to be global. It's got to be relevant globally, not just in India. I think if you want to be, if you want to go hard, go big. And I think going big is about looking at uh, at uh, at the modern issues that people face around the world. I think the other thing that you might want to look at, and this is just off the top of my head, there's a lot of mixed race people in Australia right now. There's a lot of Indians, so-called, people from, Mumbai and Kolkata or Delhi or Chennai that are coming out here as Indian students and marrying Australians. Right?
Mm.
They're not the colonial Anglo-Indians, but aren't
Right.
they? Aren't they? Look at all of the mixed marriages that happen in the UK. They have similar
Yeah.
issues of identity and who we are and how we belong and how do we hang on to our heritage. I think we need to expand our area, our scope, from just the people who are traditionally be called Anglo-Indians to the new Anglo-Indians, which is the new mixed race people that exist. And I think there's an opportunity. I'm just thinking about that loud. I haven't given that much thought until this very moment. But I think there's a huge market, which we can lead, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the number one is to make these reachable targets and goals, because I kind of work on a formula of two short-term goals make one medium-term goal and two medium-term goals make one long-term goal. That's my target. That's the way I formulate stuff, right?
Yeah,
So 2029 is that long-term goal. I'm breaking down into my medium-term goal and what I do in this year. So it works that particular way.
yeah.
So I'm going to end by asking you this is,
But before we end, I didn't answer your question. How would I pitch it? I pitch
yeah,
it only after I have figured out what the value is, what the value that we are selling. It's not about the offering or the platform or that, it's the value that we're offering. Once we understand what the value we're offering, we target the market and then we
yes,
pitch at an emotional level first. And I think
that
it
is
is
why,
about, yeah,
sorry,
that's
I
it.
mean, that's why, oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, no, that's all I want to say.
That's why we're trying to have these conversations, because a lot of people on the ground have a very different idea of things there. And not only that, a lot of non-Anglo-Indians, who I call honorary Anglo-Indians, who sometimes are more Anglo-Indian than Anglo-Indian, right, have a very nice view and an external view of the community. So do check out the interview with Leslie and with Mark Rigo for that, right? Uh, which we are going to kind of, a very interesting view on that. So I'm going to end by asking you this. What would you like to give Gain, and what should Gain give to you?
Well, I think the whole issue of identity is really important to me. So I think what Gain can give to me, I'll go there first, is a connection and an opportunity. Because for me, it's about getting my expertise used, and I'm not talking about it from a financial point of view because I think I'm past that right now. But I have some expertise, and if I can offer that to Gain, I'll be delighted to. Because as you get older, the thing that you want to do is to make sure that the value you provide is something that is real value. So, for example, I do a lot of coaching, I do some mentoring, my leadership nuggets, which you get. Why don't we put that on Gain and put it across to the whole community of business leaders who might want to access that, right? So that's a really practical thing we could do. I can help people tell their stories. I can help people sell and pitch. That's my background. So if you know, my expertise comes from leadership, coaching, sales, businesses, and if I can help anyone do something, then it becomes really rewarding for me personally.
That's why we have to grow our team, and that's why we have to grow this whole network, but also our team, because it's going to be a little financially, it's going to be a very really big project, but making sure it's sustainable. And we don't want to keep asking donations. Okay, I don't want to do that. I mean, if the community is serious about growing, then it has to be serious enough to support itself, and that's how I
Yeah.
see it, right? Thanks, Andre. Appreciate the time taken out. And I'll just ask you a small favor, and I keep asking. Please, could you put us in contact with any Anglo-Indians in Australia, youth as well as seniors? Youth is because we have to have the perspective, and we want to do the roundtable,
Yeah.
right?
I
And the
will, I will,
seniors.
I will do that. I will definitely I will talk to a few people to try and get them. And I would encourage you to look at the youth. And I would also encourage you, as you're looking at 2029 in Melbourne, to have something designed by the youth for that conference.
Just to, okay, again, I'm so sorry. The thing is, I know I'm speaking a little too quick here, but the thing is, in an hour, I have a conversation with this 18-year-old. No, now he's 19, who's released his book, and he's an author by when he was 15, 16. He's two, three books. He's into sci-fi and his perspective. So keep an eye on that. That will be released in 2 days.
He is the person. Is he Anglo-Indian?
Yes.
He's the
Big.
person he's the person you should be talking to and talking to how do we get his cohort, if you like, engaged because they know what they want. We don't, but you've got to ask them. They're the ones who can be the architects for themselves, not us for them. And I think that's a mistake we often make because we do what we think is best for them. Don't do that. Get them, get 4 or 5, 10 young Anglo-Indians involved and say, hey, here's your charter, this is what you've got to do, and give them some agency and some authority to do that.
Okay. I'm going to end by just telling you this. Next week is our Anglo-Indian Aussie week. So I'm interviewing everybody from Australia that goes there. The week after that is the youth conversations. So the whole week is only to the youth below 40, right?
Yeah,
So that's going to happen. So that's happening. And then we hope to do the roundtable there, right?
cool.
And thanks, Andre. Thank you so much.
Thank
Like,
you,
it's
Aubrey,
just getting
and good
warm.
luck, mate. Good luck. uh
Thank you,
Good
sir,
luck.
Andre.
Okay, mate.
Thanks.
Bye.